My name is Jessica. I'm 34 years old, and I once believed I had the perfect marriage. 7 years with Michael, building a life I thought was unshakable. Then I found those text messages. The kind that make your stomach drop and your world shatter in an instant. I never imagined I'd be the one telling a story of betrayal, or that I'd find the strength to make sure he faced every consequence he deserved. Before I share how I turned my heartbreak into power, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you want to hear how I made my cheating husband face the music. Before everything fell apart, I was living what I thought was a charmed life. I had built a successful career as a marketing executive at a respected firm in Boston. My days were filled with creative challenges and professional achievements that made me feel fulfilled and independent. I worked hard for my position, climbing the corporate ladder with determination and skill that earned me respect from colleagues and competitors alike. Michael and I met 9 years ago at my college roommate's wedding. He was the best man, I was the maid of honor, and we locked eyes across the dance floor during the reception. It sounds like a romantic comedy setup, but that's genuinely how it happened. He had this confident smile and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed. That night, we talked until the venue staff started stacking chairs around us. Our romance was a whirlwind. Within 3 months, we were practically inseparable. Michael worked as a financial analyst, and our careers complemented each other perfectly. We both understood the demands of professional life while supporting each other's ambitions. After dating for 2 years, he proposed during a surprise weekend trip to Cape Cod, getting down on one knee at sunset on a private beach. I still remember the way the light caught the diamond as he held up the ring. Our wedding was everything I'd dreamed of, intimate yet elegant, with 120 of our closest friends and family gathered at a historic mansion overlooking the ocean. I wore a dress that made me feel like a princess, and when Michael teared up seeing me walk down the aisle, I thought I'd never love anyone more completely than I loved him in that moment. After honeymooning in Greece, we returned to start our married life together. We bought a beautiful colonial house in a quiet suburb, just the right distance from the city. We spent weekends painting walls, planting gardens, and hunting for unique furniture pieces at antique shops. Every corner of that house held a memory or a dream for our future. The guest bedroom that would someday become a nursery. The backyard where we'd host summer barbecues. The kitchen island where we'd drink coffee and plan our weekends. Life settled into a beautiful routine. Friday night date nights were sacred. Sometimes fancy restaurants, sometimes takeout and movies on the couch. We took weekend trips to nearby states, exploring small towns and collecting memories. We hosted dinner parties where friends commented on how perfect we seemed together. We talked about starting a family soon, always pushed slightly into the future as we enjoyed being just the two of us. For the first 5 years, there wasn't a cloud on the horizon. Michael was attentive, affectionate, and supportive. He brought me flowers randomly, remembered important dates, and still looked at me with that same intensity from the night we met. When my father had a health scare, Michael took time off work to drive me to the hospital daily. When I was passed over for a promotion, he arranged a weekend getaway to help me regroup. He was everything a husband should be. Looking back, the first subtle signs started about 2 years ago. Small things I dismissed, working later than usual, being more protective of his phone, fewer spontaneous displays of affection. But these changes were so gradual that I hardly noticed them as they happened. When he joined a gym and started taking more care with his appearance, I was pleased rather than suspicious. When business trips became more frequent, I trusted they were legitimate. When he seemed distracted during conversations, I attributed it to work stress. I remember our 7th anniversary dinner vividly. We went to the same restaurant where we'd celebrated our engagement. Michael seemed distant, checking his phone repeatedly until I finally asked him to put it away. He apologized, blaming an important work project, and ordered champagne to make up for it. As we toasted to 7 years together, there was something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. Now I know it was guilt. Still, I had no real reason to doubt him. We still laughed together, made love regularly, and discussed future plans. I thought we were solid, unbreakable. I believed in us with such certainty that I ignored my intuition when it occasionally whispered that something had shifted. After all marriages evolve over time, don't they? The passionate early years naturally settle into something deeper, but perhaps less fiery. That's what I told myself. On our way home from that anniversary dinner, Michael held my hand across the car console and said, "Here's to many more years together." I squeezed his hand back, filled with hope for our future, completely unaware that our marriage was already fractured at its foundation. Sometimes I wonder if he was already seeing her then, already living a double life while promising me forever. That night, as he slept beside me, I lay awake thinking about how lucky I was to have found such a wonderful partner. The irony of that moment still stings, me counting my blessings while the truth lurked just below the surface, waiting to explode into my perfectly constructed life. My first real suspicion came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Michael had left for work, and I was gathering laundry when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He'd forgotten it, something that never happened. A notification flashed across the screen. "Can't wait to see you later." Same place. The name showed only as S with a simple star emoji beside it. My heart pounded as I stared at those words. Who was S? What same place were they meeting? I picked up the phone, tempted to unlock it, but stopped myself. Michael and I had always respected each other's privacy. Breaking that trust felt wrong, even as doubt crept into my mind. When he rushed home an hour later, clearly flustered about forgetting his phone, I casually mentioned seeing a text from S. His reaction was too quick, too rehearsed. "Oh, that's Sam from the new marketing team. We're meeting about the merger project." His voice was steady, but he wouldn't meet my eyes as he grabbed his phone and left. I wanted to believe him. Sam could be a woman's or a man's name. It could be innocent. But something in his demeanor planted a seed of doubt that would grow despite my best efforts to uproot it. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more changes. Michael started wearing cologne he'd never worn before. He bought new underwear and shirts without mentioning it. He joined a gym and became almost obsessive about his workouts. His schedule became increasingly unpredictable. Late meetings, weekend work sessions, overnight business trips that hadn't been mentioned until the last minute. My friends Rachel and Amanda were the first to voice concerns. During our monthly girls' brunch, Rachel gently mentioned seeing Michael downtown with a blonde woman, looking very friendly at a cafe I knew we'd never visited together. It was probably a work colleague, I defended immediately. He's managing a big project with a new team. Amanda exchanged a look with Rachel that spoke volumes. Just keep your eyes open, Jess. Men sometimes go through phases when they hit their mid-30s. I bristled at their implication. Michael isn't men. He's my husband, and we're happy. The words sounded hollow even to my ears, but I wasn't ready to entertain their suspicions. At home, I found myself watching Michael more carefully. The way he'd step outside to take certain calls. How he'd shower immediately after coming home late. The password on his phone that hadn't existed before. Each observation I rationalized away. Privacy for client calls, consideration for my sensitive nose, security after a colleague's phone was hacked. Then came the jewelry receipt. While organizing tax documents in our home office, I found a receipt for a white gold necklace with a sapphire pendant. Expensive, elegant, and definitely not in my jewelry box. The purchase date was 3 days before my birthday, but I'd received concert tickets instead. That night, I carefully asked about the receipt, keeping my tone light and curious. "Oh, that," Michael said with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "It was for my mom's birthday. Remember, I told you I was getting her something special this year." I nodded, pretending to recall a conversation that had never happened. His mother's birthday was 4 months away, and she exclusively wore yellow gold, a detail Michael certainly knew. but confronting him with these inconsistencies felt like opening a door I wasn't ready to walk through. Instead, I called his mother the next day, ostensibly to discuss holiday plans. During our chat, I casually asked if she'd received any early birthday gifts. Her confused denial was another piece of evidence I tucked away, still unwilling to form the complete picture. As weeks passed, Michael's behavior became more erratic. Some days he was overly attentive, bringing home my favorite desserts or suggesting weekend getaways. Other days he was distant, irritable, picking fights over trivial matters before disappearing to clear his head. The emotional whiplash left me constantly on edge. Sleep became elusive. I'd lie awake analyzing conversations, trying to separate paranoia from legitimate concerns. My work performance suffered as concentration became impossible. Colleagues noticed my distraction, but I blamed it on allergy medication or minor health issues. In quiet moments alone, I'd rehearse confrontations in my head, imagining scenarios where I demanded the truth and he provided innocent explanations for everything. Then I'd imagine worse scenarios, confessions, tears, the disintegration of everything we'd built together. My inner conflict intensified daily. Trust the man I'd shared my life with for 7 years, or trust my growing instincts that something was seriously wrong. The cognitive dissonance was exhausting. I'd convince myself I was being paranoid in the morning, then find myself searching his jacket pockets by evening. Despite mounting evidence, I maintained a facade of normalcy. We still had dinner together most nights, attended social functions as a united couple, and made summer vacation plans. I became an actress in my own marriage, smiling through dinner parties while scanning the room for signs of his attention wandering to his phone. After 2 months of this psychological torture, I reached a breaking point. The constant uncertainty was worse than whatever truth awaited me. If my marriage was broken, I needed to know exactly how and why. If my trust had been misplaced, I deserved to understand the full extent of the betrayal. I decided to investigate properly, methodically, gathering information before confronting Michael. No more dismissing coincidences or accepting flimsy explanations. I would either confirm my fears or put them to rest once and for all. This decision brought its own kind of peace, the calm determination that comes with taking back control. That night, as Michael slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a silent promise to myself. Whatever I discovered, I would face it with dignity and strength. The woman who had been living in anxious uncertainty would be replaced by someone who demanded truth and respect, whatever the personal cost. With my decision to uncover the truth firmly made, I approached my investigation methodically. My marketing career had taught me research skills, and now I applied them to my own marriage. First, I checked our phone records online, a resource I'd never thought I'd use for such a purpose. The same number appeared repeatedly in Michael's call log, often late at night or during his supposed lunch breaks. Calls ranging from few minutes to over an hour, several times a week for the past 4 months. I wrote down the number but didn't call it. Direct confrontation wasn't my strategy yet. Instead, I noted the patterns, calls that corresponded with Michael's late nights, weekend errands, and mysterious appointments. The frequency was too regular to be coincidental, too consistent to be business-related. The next step was harder. On a Wednesday, when Michael mentioned a client dinner, I decided to follow him. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad movie, waiting in my car 2 blocks from our house until I saw his BMW pull away. I maintained a safe distance, thankful for the busy evening traffic that made my sedan just another vehicle on the road. He didn't drive to the restaurant district downtown as expected. Instead, he headed to an upscale residential area across the city, eventually parking outside a modern apartment complex I'd never seen before. I pulled into a spot across the street, heart pounding so loudly I was sure it could be heard outside my car. Michael checked his appearance in his rearview mirror, then grabbed a small gift bag from the passenger seat, something I hadn't noticed when he left home. He walked confidently to the entrance, punched in a code like he'd done it 100 times before, and disappeared inside. I sat frozen, the reality of the situation crashing over me in waves. This wasn't a business meeting. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate deception. I considered storming in, creating a scene, demanding answers on the spot. Instead, I took photos of his car outside the building and waited, forcing myself to breathe evenly, though each inhalation felt like swallowing glass. 2 hours later, Michael emerged, but he wasn't alone. A tall blonde woman walked out with him, her arm comfortably linked through his. They paused at the entrance, and then he kissed her, not a friendly peck, but the kind of kiss that speaks of intimacy and familiarity. I took more photos, my hands shaking so badly I worried they'd be blurred, but I needed evidence. Something concrete to counter the denials I knew would come. They walked to his car together, talked for a few minutes more, shared another kiss, and then she walked back to the building while he drove away. I followed her with my eyes, trying to memorize every detail: designer jeans, leather jacket, hair pulled into an elegant ponytail. She walked with confidence, the confidence of a woman who didn't know she was the other woman, or perhaps didn't care. I didn't follow Michael home. Instead, I drove to Rachel's apartment, called in sick to work the next day, and spent the night alternating between sobbing and planning my next steps. Rachel held me, made tea I couldn't drink, and resisted saying, "I told you so," which only made me love her more. The following day, while Michael was at work, I began a deeper investigation. The blonde woman wasn't difficult to find. Using the address and a partial shot of her face from my photos, I located her on social media. Stephanie Lawson, real estate agent, fitness enthusiast, and apparently, my husband's mistress. Her profile was public, filled with professional photos and personal glimpses into her life, including several veiled references to a special someone who made her happy but needed to remain private for now. Going back through her timeline, I found posts coinciding with weekends Michael had been away for business, check-ins at restaurants in nearby towns, a weekend at a lakeside cabin, even a day trip to the vineyard where we'd celebrated our 5th anniversary. Places I'd never suspected because they seemed too brazen, too connected to our own history. Based on her posts and the pattern of calls, I estimated their affair had been going on for at least 6 months, possibly longer. The timeline made my stomach turn. It included my birthday, our anniversary, Christmas with my family. Occasions where Michael had been physically present but emotionally elsewhere, thinking of her while pretending devotion to me. With shaking hands, I searched our joint computer for any further evidence. In the browser history, carefully deleted but recoverable with basic tech knowledge, I found a trail leading to an email account I'd never seen before. The password wasn't difficult to guess, a combination of his childhood, street, and year of birth, a formula he consistently used for unimportant accounts. The emails confirmed everything and revealed worse. Intimate exchanges dating back 8 months. Plans for their encounters. Complaints about his marriage, about me, portrayed as a demanding, career-obsessed wife who didn't understand him. Promises about a future together once he figured out the financial aspects of leaving me. Most devastating were the hotel receipts forwarded to the secret email, luxurious rooms in cities where I thought he'd been attending conferences or meeting clients. Each receipt matched perfectly with Stephanie's social media posts from those same weekends, different locations but identical dates, connecting the dots of their parallel relationship. I printed everything: emails, receipts, phone records, screenshots of her social media posts, alongside his supposed whereabouts on those dates. I created a timeline, clinical and detailed, of the affair. This wasn't just emotional preparation for confrontation, it was financial and legal protection. Something in me knew this marriage was beyond saving, and I needed to be prepared. That afternoon, I called Melissa, a college friend who had become a divorce attorney. I didn't tell her everything over the phone, just enough to schedule an urgent coffee meeting the following day. Her voice was calm, professional, but underlined with the concern of a friend who understood the implications of such a call. Bring any financial documents you can access, she advised. Bank statements, investment information, property papers. And Jessica, she paused, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Those simple words of validation broke something in me. The methodical investigator I'd been all day crumbled into a woman betrayed by the person she trusted most. I cried until my throat was raw, until my eyes burned, and my head pounded with a pain that matched my heart. When the tears finally subsided, I was left with a clarity I hadn't expected. The path forward would be painful, but necessary. Michael had made his choices, multiple times, with calculation and deceit. Now I would make mine, with equal deliberation, but far more dignity. I spent that night planning exactly how and when to confront him. Not in anger or haste, but with strategic precision. I would choose the moment, control the conversation, and determine the consequences. For perhaps the first time in our marriage, I would hold all the power. I chose Friday evening for the confrontation, knowing Michael would be relaxed after work and we'd have the entire weekend without professional obligations. I prepared meticulously, cooking his favorite meal, opening a bottle of expensive wine, wearing the blue dress he always complimented. The normalcy would be disarming, the familiar setting a stark contrast to the explosion I was about to detonate. The table was set beautifully, candles lit, music playing softly in the background. To anyone looking through our window, it would appear to be a romantic dinner between a loving couple. Only the manila folder placed beside my plate hinted at something amiss. Michael arrived home at 7, calling out cheerfully as he entered. He seemed surprised by the elaborate dinner setup, kissing my cheek as he commented on how nice everything looked. His ease in our home, his casual affection after coming directly from her apartment, it made my blood boil beneath my composed exterior. "What's the occasion?" he asked, loosening his tie and pouring himself a glass of wine. "I thought we should talk," I replied evenly, serving the grilled salmon he loved. "It's been a while since we had a real conversation." He nodded, seemingly relieved that my mood was pleasant. We discussed trivial matters through the appetizer, office politics, an upcoming movie we'd planned to see, his mother's idea for a summer family gathering. I played along, asking questions, smiling at appropriate moments, all while the folder sat, untouched, beside me. As we finished the main course, I took a deliberate sip of wine and said, "I ran into someone interesting yesterday. Stephanie Lawson. Do you know her?" The change in his expression was immediate and unmistakable, a flash of panic quickly masked by confusion. "Stephanie? I don't think so. Who is she?" "That's odd," I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Because she seems to know you quite well. Very well, in fact." "I don't know what you're talking about, Jessica." His tone sharpened defensively as he reached for his wine glass, but I noticed a slight tremor in his hand. I opened the folder and slid across a photo, Michael and Stephanie kissing outside her apartment building. "Perhaps this will refresh your memory." The color drained from his face as he stared at the image. His mouth opened and closed without producing words, like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. "Nothing to say?" I pushed another photo toward him, the two of them entering a hotel in Providence, her weekend Instagram post from the same hotel positioned alongside it. "How about this? Or this?" More evidence followed, emails, receipts, the timeline of their relationship laid out in irrefutable detail. "Jessica, I can explain," he finally managed, his voice strained. "Please do," I interrupted coldly. "Explain how you've been sleeping with Stephanie Lawson for at least 8 months, while lying to my face every single day. Explain the hotels, the secret email account, the business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Explain how you complained about me to her, how you discussed leaving me once you figured out the finances." "Please, Michael, I'm fascinated to hear these explanations." His denial crumbled instantly. "It just happened, Jess. It didn't mean anything." 8 months of just happened? My laugh was bitter, foreign to my own ears. Multiple weekends away didn't mean anything? Try again. Panic replaced his initial shock as he realized the extent of my knowledge. He reached for my hand across the table, which I immediately withdrew. Baby, I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in something exciting and new, but it's you I love. It's always been you. Don't. The word sliced through his rambling. Don't insult me with lies about love after what I've seen in those emails. His strategy shifted to self-pity. I've been going through something, feeling inadequate, questioning my choices. Stephanie was just there when I was vulnerable. It was never about not loving you. And on our anniversary? At Christmas with my family? During my father's surgery? Were you vulnerable all those times too? Each question was a dagger I wanted him to feel as deeply as I felt his betrayal. Michael's composure fractured completely. Tears filled his eyes as he abandoned all pretense. I fucked up, Jessica. I fucked up so badly. But we can fix this. Couples therapy, a fresh start, anything you want. I'll end it with her right now, in front of you. I'll change my number, my job if necessary. Please, we can't throw away 7 years over one mistake. One mistake repeated hundreds of times. I corrected, my own tears finally breaking through. Each lie was a choice, Michael. Each hotel room. Each time you left my bed to call her. Each complaint about me shared with your lover. Hundreds of deliberate choices. The reality of his actions seemed to hit him fully for the first time. He collapsed into his chair, head in his hands. What can I do? Tell me what to do to make this right. Something in his desperate plea broke the dam of emotions I'd been controlling. The careful script I'd prepared shattered as 7 years of trust, love, and shared dreams crumbled before me. I began to sob, deep, body-racking cries that came from somewhere primal and wounded. You were my best friend, I managed between sobs. I trusted you with everything. How could you do this to us? Michael rushed to my side of the table, kneeling beside my chair, his own face streaked with tears. I'll do anything, Jessica. Anything to earn back your trust. I love you. I've always loved you. In that moment of raw vulnerability, he made his final, devastating confession. Stephanie was a mistake, but I swear it will never happen again. I learned my lesson. I froze, something in his phrasing triggering a terrible suspicion. Again. His expression confirmed my fear before he spoke. Jessica, please. This wasn't the first time, was it? The numbness spreading through me was almost welcome, a buffer against this new pain. His silence was answer enough, but I needed to hear it. How many others, Michael? Just one, he whispered, not meeting my eyes. 2 years ago. It was brief, meaningless. It ended before it really began. 2 years ago, when the subtle changes first started. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Get out. Jessica, please. Get out. I screamed, shoving him away from me. Get your things and get out of this house tonight. I can't even look at you. Michael scrambled to his feet, still pleading. Where am I supposed to go? This is my home too. You should have thought of that before you turned our marriage into a lie. Go to Stephanie. Go to a hotel. I don't care where you go, but you're not spending another night under this roof. The next hour passed in a blur of continued arguments, desperate promises, and finally, resignation as Michael packed an overnight bag. His family called my phone repeatedly after he contacted them, but I silenced each attempt. Friends texted asking what was happening, alerted by Michael's cryptic social media post about going through a difficult time. I sat alone in our living room after he left, surrounded by the debris of our confrontation. Scattered photographs, half-eaten dinner, wine glasses still half full. The house felt cavernous and unfamiliar, as if the walls themselves had been complicit in the deception. That night was the darkest of my life. I moved between rage and despair, between planning vicious revenge and begging the universe to let me wake up from this nightmare. I destroyed wedding photos, then frantically tried to piece the shattered frames back together. I called his phone dozens of times, hanging up before he could answer. I drafted emails to Stephanie, alternately threatening and pleading, never sending any of them. By morning, exhaustion had replaced the emotional maelstrom. I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by mementos of a marriage that no longer existed, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. The woman who had methodically gathered evidence, who had orchestrated a powerful confrontation, was gone, replaced by someone hollow and broken, unsure how to take the next breath, let alone the next step forward. The morning after I threw Michael out, the doorbell rang at precisely 9 a.m. A delivery man stood there with an enormous bouquet of red roses, 3 dozen at least, arranged with elegant greenery in a crystal vase I recognized from a boutique downtown. The card read simply, "I will spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Please give me that chance. All my love, Michael." I placed the flowers directly into the trash can, vase and all. The satisfying crash of crystal shattering somehow matched the state of my heart. That was just the beginning. Every morning for the next week, different arrangements arrived. Lilies, my favorite, orchids, exotic blooms I couldn't name. Each came with increasingly desperate notes. "I miss you. I can't eat or sleep without you. Please answer my calls." I disposed of each delivery with the same mechanical detachment, though the florist must have made a small fortune. When flowers didn't work, gifts appeared. A platinum bracelet I'd admired months ago. First edition books by my favorite author. Tickets to a sold-out Broadway show we'd discussed seeing. Each item represented a moment in our relationship, a conversation he'd apparently been present for while planning his deceptions. The manipulation was so transparent it almost insulted my intelligence. On day 10, a handwritten letter arrived, 8 pages of apologies, explanations, and promises. Michael detailed his regret, his shame, his commitment to changing. He'd already started therapy, he wrote. He'd told his parents everything, accepting their disappointment and anger. He deleted all contact with Stephanie and requested a transfer at work to avoid any possible interaction. He ended with a plea to meet, just for coffee, just to talk. I read the letter twice, then filed it with the growing collection of evidence for my divorce attorney. His words meant nothing when compared to 8 months of calculated betrayal. The social media apology came next. Michael rarely posted personal content online, preferring to share articles and professional updates. So when a lengthy post appeared on his accounts, a vague but emotional statement about terrible mistakes, hurting someone irreplaceable, and hoping for forgiveness, our entire social circle recognized it for what it was. My phone exploded with messages from concerned friends and family, forcing me to address the situation before I was ready. Just as I was drafting a response to the closest of these concerned messages, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Jessica, this is Stephanie Lawson. We need to talk. Michael is lying to both of us." My hands shook as I read and reread those words. I'd imagined confronting her dozens of times, rehearsed scathing monologues and accusations. But her reaching out first, with this particular claim, caught me completely off guard. Against my better judgment, I responded, "What do you mean?" Her reply came immediately. "He told me he ended things with you months ago. That you were separated but keeping up appearances until the right time to announce it. He was at my apartment last night, talking about our future together." The revelation shouldn't have hurt. I already knew the depth of Michael's deception. Yet something about this new lie, told while he was simultaneously bombarding me with pleas for reconciliation, twisted the knife deeper. The man I married, the man I thought I knew, had completely disappeared, replaced by someone capable of unimaginable cruelty and dishonesty. I sent Stephanie screenshots of Michael's messages from that very morning, his flowery apologies and promises to win me back. Her response was a single word: bastard. We arranged to meet the following day at a cafe across town, 2 women connected by the worst possible circumstances. The meeting was surprisingly civil. both of U.S. victims of the same man's manipulation, comparing notes on his lies. She'd been told I was controlling, career-obsessed, uninterested in intimacy. I learned he'd described her as just physical, someone who meant nothing emotionally. We parted with an unusual solidarity, both determined to remove Michael from our lives permanently. That solidarity became crucial the following afternoon when Michael appeared unannounced at my workplace. He charmed his way past reception with flowers and a convincing story about surprising his wife for our anniversary. By the time security removed him, the entire office had witnessed his emotional pleas and my humiliated rejection. My professional reputation, carefully built over years, was now tainted by personal drama I'd tried desperately to keep separate. The public scene transformed my lingering sadness into white-hot anger. This was no longer about a broken heart. This was about a man systematically dismantling every aspect of my life while claiming to love me. My resolve hardened into something unbreakable. Michael would not get the forgiveness he sought, not now, not ever. His desperation intensified as he realized traditional methods weren't working. He enlisted our mutual friends as emissaries, coaching them with talking points about forgiveness, second chances, and the sanctity of marriage. Some delivered these messages reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable with their assigned roles. Others became true believers in his redemption narrative, applying subtle but persistent pressure. "He's absolutely destroyed, Jess," our friend Brian told me over coffee. "He's lost 20 pounds, barely functioning at work." I've never seen anyone so genuinely remorseful. Did he mention being equally remorseful while sleeping with Stephanie for 8 months? I asked coldly. Or while cheating 2 years before that? Was he destroyed then, or just careful not to get caught? These conversations cost me several friendships as people chose sides in a battle I never wanted to fight. The isolation might have broken me earlier in the process, but now it only reinforced my determination to rebuild my life without anyone who couldn't fully support my decision. While navigating this emotional minefield, I discovered another betrayal that confirmed my resolve. Reviewing our financial records with my attorney revealed numerous unexplained withdrawals over the past year, small enough individually to go unnoticed, but substantial in aggregate. Hotel rooms, jewelry, weekend getaways, all financed from our joint savings, funds we'd allocated for our future together. Michael had not only betrayed my trust, he'd used our shared resources to do it. Money we'd saved for a family, for security, for dreams we'd planned together, diverted to fund his double life. The financial deception added a practical dimension to my emotional wounds, transforming forgiveness from unlikely to impossible. The final manipulation came through Michael's parents, who had always treated me like a daughter. They appeared at my door one Sunday afternoon, faces grave with concern for their son and the marriage they'd celebrated with us 7 years earlier. "He's not perfect, Jessica," his mother said tearfully, clutching my hands across the kitchen table. "But who among us is? The Michael we know and love is the man you fell in love with, not this terrible mistake he's made." His father, normally stoic, added his own plea. "In 50 years of marriage, your mother-in-law and I have weathered storms you couldn't imagine. Marriage is about forgiveness, about choosing each other even when it's hardest." Their sincerity was genuine, their pain real. I felt a moment of doubt, not about Michael's actions, but about my unwillingness to consider reconciliation. Was I being too harsh, too absolute in my judgment? That evening, I took their advice and met with the therapist I'd been seeing since the confrontation. Dr. Rivera listened patiently as I recounted the visit and my momentary wavering. "Jessica," she said finally, "forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. You can eventually forgive Michael, for your own peace, without allowing him back into your life. His parents have their own reasons for wanting this marriage to continue, but only you know what you can live with." Her words crystallized something I'd been feeling but couldn't articulate. This wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about self-preservation, about recognizing that some broken things cannot and should not be repaired. Some betrayals permanently alter the landscape of a relationship, making return impossible regardless of remorse. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since discovering Michael's infidelity. The path forward was difficult but clear. I would not be swayed by flowers, gifts, mutual friends, or familial pressure. I would not allow Michael's manipulation to dictate my future any more than his betrayal would define my past. The woman who had once built her world around a marriage was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who understood her own worth too well to accept anything less than complete honesty and respect. Michael's desperate attempts at reconciliation had accomplished the opposite of his intention. They had cemented my resolve to create a life without him in it. With my decision firmly made, I shifted from reactive to proactive mode. No more responding to Michael's manipulation attempts or defending my choices to well-meaning friends. It was time to take control of my narrative and my future. My first step was consulting with Diana Blackwell, one of the city's top divorce attorneys, recommended by 3 separate professional women who'd navigated similar situations. Diana's reputation for being both fair and formidable made her perfect for my situation. I didn't want vengeance, just equitable resolution and protection from Michael's emotional tactics. Based on what you've shown me, Diana said during our second meeting, reviewing the extensive documentation I'd gathered, we have a very strong case for a favorable settlement. The infidelity itself isn't legally significant in our state, but the financial misconduct is. Using joint funds for the affair creates a clear argument for dissipation of marital assets. Under her guidance, I organized an even more comprehensive file of evidence, not just of the affairs, but of every financial transaction connected to them. Credit card statements showing dinners, hotel bookings, and gifts. Transfers from our joint savings to Michael's personal account. The jewelry receipt that had first aroused my suspicion, now joined by evidence of other expensive presents never given to me. Diana also advised me to document every attempt at contact from Michael, especially those that could be construed as harassment or manipulation. The workplace incident, the involvement of his parents, the endless deliveries, all became part of the official record. What Michael had intended as romantic gestures now transformed into evidence of his disregard for my clearly stated boundaries. While building my legal case, I also sought professional advice about our shared home. A real estate agent confirmed what I already suspected. The housing market was strong, and our property had appreciated significantly since purchase. Selling would provide each of us with capital to start over separately, removing the need for ongoing financial entanglement. With these practical matters in motion, I faced the challenge of controlling the social narrative. Michael's public apology post had painted him as the penitent husband seeking forgiveness from an unspecified wrongdoing. Friends and acquaintances were filling in the blanks with speculation, some of which cast me as unforgiving or vindictive. After careful consideration and consultation with both my therapist and attorney, I decided to address the situation directly. My social media post was brief, dignified, and unambiguous. Many of you have expressed concern about recent changes in my personal life. While I generally prefer to keep private matters private, the public nature of recent events has made that impossible. My marriage has ended due to repeated infidelity and breaches of trust that cannot be repaired. I appreciate your support during this difficult transition, but will not be providing further details out of respect for everyone involved. I ask for understanding and space as I move forward. The response was overwhelming and largely supportive. Friends who had been hesitant to take sides reached out with unequivocal support. Colleagues expressed admiration for my handling of a difficult situation with grace. Even Michael's sister contacted me privately, expressing her disappointment in her brother and offering continued friendship regardless of the divorce. The post also had unexpected professional consequences. Michael's company prided itself on ethical conduct and family values in its public image. When my statement linked to his earlier public apology, the connection was unavoidable. 3 of his colleagues, who had seen him with Stephanie at various events, connected the dots. Within a week, Michael was called into meetings with HR and senior management. He wasn't fired. His technical skills and client relationships were too valuable, but his pending promotion was put on hold indefinitely, and he was removed from several high-profile projects that would have involved travel and client entertainment. The company couldn't officially cite his personal conduct, but the timing made the connection clear. Michael's carefully constructed professional image suffered its first significant crack. While Michael dealt with these professional consequences, I focused on rebuilding my support network. Rachel and Amanda remained steadfast allies, but I also reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage, women whose intelligence and independence Michael had subtly criticized over the years, men whose friendship he'd viewed with unnecessary suspicion. These renewed connections reminded me of aspects of myself I'd muted or modified to maintain marital harmony. Financial separation proceeded methodically. Joint accounts were frozen then divided. Credit cards were canceled and replaced with individual accounts. Insurance policies, retirement funds, and investment portfolios were untangled with professional assistance. The process was complicated but cathartic, each separation a step toward complete independence. The house sold within 3 weeks of listing, above asking price with multiple offers. Dividing our shared possessions was more emotionally fraught, but Diana arranged for the process to occur while I was away for a weekend, sparing me the pain of watching our home dismantled. My new apartment was smaller, but entirely mine, decorated according to my taste alone, filled with carefully chosen items that carried no painful memories. Throughout this period, Michael's attempts at reconciliation continued but evolved. Direct approaches gave way to more sophisticated manipulation. He claimed to respect my decision while finding reasons for necessary contact. He presented himself as reasonable and cooperative in divorce proceedings while having his attorney fight aggressively over minor details. He portrayed himself as the wronged party who nonetheless wished me well, gaining sympathy from mutual acquaintances who then approached me with suggestions to be fair in the settlement. 6 weeks after my decision to divorce, Michael made his grandest gesture yet. He appeared at my apartment building's lobby on a Friday evening, holding an envelope and looking more composed than I'd seen him since the confrontation. The security guard called up, and against my better judgment, I agreed to come down, curious about this new approach after weeks of relative quiet. Michael was dressed impeccably, reminiscent of our early dating days. The envelope contained printed reservations for the coastal bed and breakfast where we'd spent our honeymoon, booked for our upcoming 8th anniversary. No pressure, no expectations, he said, maintaining a respectful distance. Just a chance to remember what we had, what we could have again. I've changed, Jessica. I've done the work. I understand now what I nearly threw away. His performance was flawless, contrite yet confident, emotional yet restrained. 6 months earlier, I might have been swayed by this apparently genuine transformation. Now I saw it for what it was. Another manipulation, more subtle but no less calculating than the others. No, I said simply, returning the envelope. Just think about it, he persisted. We owe ourselves. We don't owe each other anything anymore, Michael, I interrupted. The divorce will be final in 3 months. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. His carefully constructed facade cracked. With who? Are you seeing someone already? The possessive anger in his voice confirmed everything I needed to know. The changed man was a performance. The controlling, self-centered person beneath remained the same. My life is no longer your concern, I replied calmly. Please don't contact me again except through our attorneys. As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm, not violently, but firmly enough to stop me. You can't just throw away 8 years, Jessica. I won't let you do this to us. The security guard stepped forward immediately, and Michael released me, backing away with hands raised in surrender. I'm sorry, I love you, Jessica. I always will. Those words, once precious, now rang hollow. I returned to my apartment feeling not anger or sadness, but a profound relief. The encounter had confirmed what I already knew. Reconciliation wasn't just unwanted, it was impossible. The marriage I thought I had never truly existed. 2 days later, the final thread connecting us beyond legal paperwork was severed when Stephanie contacted me again. She'd run into Michael at a restaurant where he was dining with another woman, neither his wife nor his acknowledged mistress, but someone new. Michael had attempted to explain her away as a colleague, but Stephanie had witnessed their intimate behavior before being noticed. I thought you should know, she wrote. He's not fighting for you or mourning our relationship. He's already moving on to the next target. Instead of pain, I felt validation. Michael wasn't capable of the love and fidelity I deserved. Not with me, not with Stephanie, not with anyone. His patterns would continue, but I had stepped off the carousel of deception and manipulation. For the first time since discovering his betrayal, I felt genuine pity for him, trapped in cycles of his own making while I moved forward into a future built on truth and self-respect. When the final divorce papers arrived for my signature, I felt none of the anguish I'd anticipated months earlier. Instead, I experienced the quiet satisfaction of closing a difficult chapter with dignity intact. Michael would face the natural consequences of his actions for years to come: damaged professional reputation, strained family relationships, the inability to maintain genuine connections. Meanwhile, I would rebuild, stronger and wiser for having survived the collapse of everything I thought was certain. I signed my name with steady hands, ready at last to write my own story without Michael's shadow over every page. 6 months after signing the divorce papers, I stood in my new apartment, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in hues of orange and gold. At 35, I was starting over in ways I'd never imagined, but the view from where I stood was unexpectedly beautiful. The first few months after finalizing the divorce had been challenging in ways I hadn't anticipated. Legal separation was straightforward compared to the emotional untangling required. Random memories would ambush me at unexpected moments, inside jokes shared over breakfast, the way Michael would absent-mindedly play with my hair while we watched movies, traditions built over 7 years of marriage. Each recollection required conscious processing, acknowledging the loss while recognizing the reality beneath these seemingly happy moments. My therapy sessions with Dr. Rivera became vital to this healing process. Grief isn't just for death, she reminded me during a particularly difficult session. You're mourning the loss of your marriage, your shared future, and the person you thought you knew. Give yourself permission to feel that grief fully. That permission was transformative. I stopped pushing away difficult emotions, instead creating space to experience them completely before letting them pass. I cried in the shower, screamed into pillows, wrote angry letters I never sent. The process wasn't pretty or linear, but it was necessary, clearing emotional debris to make room for new growth. My support network proved invaluable during this period. Rachel and Amanda organized weekly dinner rotations to ensure I ate properly. My college roommate Lisa flew in for a long weekend of mindless comedies and wine. My parents, initially bewildered by the sudden end of what they'd perceived as a perfect marriage, rallied with practical support and unwavering love. Professionally, I channeled my energy into a major campaign that had been simmering on the back burner. The project required intense focus and creativity, perfect for occupying my mind during evenings that might otherwise have been spent ruminating. My team noticed the change in my leadership style, more decisive, more willing to take calculated risks. The campaign won an industry award, leading to a promotion that had eluded me for years. You seem different, my boss commented during my performance review. More confident, more willing to stand your ground. She was right. Surviving betrayal and divorce had strengthened parts of me that had atrophied during my marriage. I'd become accustomed to compromising, to considering Michael's preferences and opinions in every decision. Now, I was rediscovering the decisiveness and self-trust that had characterized my pre-marriage self, enhanced by the wisdom gained through difficult experience. This newfound confidence extended beyond work. I reconnected with passions I'd set aside, taking weekend photography workshops, joining a recreational soccer league, attending literary events alone, and enjoying unexpected conversations with strangers. Each new experience reinforced that my identity existed independently of my failed marriage, that Jessica without Michael was not just functional but vibrant. The most challenging aspect of healing was rebuilding trust, not just in potential partners, but in my own judgment. I had believed so completely in Michael's love and honesty. I had dismissed warning signs, rationalized inconsistencies, ignored my intuition. How could I ever trust myself to choose wisely again? Dr. Rivera helped me reframe this question. Your intuition wasn't wrong, she pointed out. You noticed the changes in Michael's behavior. You sensed something was off. The issue wasn't your perception, but your response, choosing to trust him despite evidence suggesting otherwise. That's not a failure of judgment. It's a testament to your commitment to your marriage. This perspective shift was crucial to my healing. I hadn't been blind or foolish. I'd been loyal and committed, qualities that remained valuable despite being misdirected in this instance. The lesson wasn't to distrust everyone, but to balance trust with appropriate boundaries and to honor my perceptions rather than dismissing them. Approximately 8 months after the divorce, I encountered Michael unexpectedly at a mutual friend's gallery opening. I'd heard through our diminished shared social circle that he'd been dating casually but nothing serious. He looked older somehow, the confident charm that once defined him now seeming forced and brittle. We exchanged brief, civil greetings, observed by curious onlookers expecting drama that never materialized. What surprised me most about this encounter wasn't Michael's appearance or behavior, but my own emotional response, or rather, the lack of it. The man who had once occupied the center of my world now generated nothing stronger than mild discomfort and a detached kind of pity. The power he had held over my emotions had dissipated completely. Later that week, Amanda updated me on Michael's situation over coffee. His professional reputation had suffered lasting damage despite his technical skills. The woman he'd been dating after Stephanie had ended things abruptly, apparently after discovering similar patterns of deception. His parents, once his staunchest defenders, had finally acknowledged the pattern of behavior their son needed to address. He was, by all accounts, experiencing the natural consequences of choices made over many years. Do you feel vindicated? Amanda asked cautiously. I considered the question carefully. Not vindicated. Validated, maybe. But mostly I feel free. His struggles don't bring me joy or satisfaction. They're just not my concern anymore. This realization marked a significant milestone in my healing journey. I had moved beyond both love and hate, beyond the desire for either reconciliation or revenge. Michael occupied an increasingly small space in my thoughts, a chapter concluded rather than an ongoing narrative. My own dating experiences began tentatively, with coffee meetings that sometimes led to dinner, occasionally to second dates, rarely beyond. Each interaction taught me something valuable about my boundaries, preferences, and capacity for vulnerability after trauma. I became more discerning but not cynical, cautious, but still open to genuine connection. Nearly a year after the divorce was finalized, I met James at a professional conference, a landscape architect with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that didn't demand constant validation. Our relationship developed slowly, built on transparent communication and mutual respect. When I eventually shared my divorce story, his response was exactly what I needed. Not excessive sympathy or promises of superior behavior, but acknowledgement of the pain and appreciation for the strength required to move forward. Thank you for trusting me with that, he said simply. It helps me understand you better. With James, I practiced the lessons learned through therapy and reflection. I voiced concerns directly rather than dismissing them. I maintained independent friendships and interests. I trusted my intuition when something felt right or wrong. Most importantly, I recognized that while love required vulnerability, it didn't demand sacrificing self-awareness or personal boundaries. The most profound lesson from my journey came unexpectedly during a hiking trip with Lisa, who asked if I had forgiven Michael yet. "I'm working on it," I admitted. Not for his benefit, but for mine. Carrying anger and resentment is exhausting, and he's no longer worth that energy. "That's forgiveness," Lisa observed. Not excusing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt, but refusing to let it control your future. "You've already forgiven him more than you realize." She was right. Forgiveness wasn't a single moment of absolution, but a gradual reclaiming of peace and possibility. It didn't require reconciliation or even communication with the person who caused the harm. True forgiveness happened internally, liberating me from the prison of past pain, regardless of whether Michael ever fully recognized or atoned for his actions. On the first anniversary of my divorce, I didn't commemorate the date with sadness or celebration. Instead, I spent the day reflecting on the person I had become through this unwanted but ultimately transformative journey. The woman who had once defined herself primarily as Michael's wife now stood confidently as simply Jessica, professional, friend, daughter, potential partner, but first and foremost, someone who had learned to honor her own worth. The betrayal that once seemed like the end of everything meaningful had instead become the catalyst for authentic growth and self-discovery. The pain had been real and devastating, but so was the strength I'd found within it. Each step of holding Michael accountable had simultaneously been a step toward reclaiming my own power and rewriting my story on my own terms. As I look toward the future now, I carry forward not bitterness but wisdom. I understand that love always involves risk, but that risk doesn't require abandoning discernment. I know that forgiveness and trust are separate gifts, the first given for my own healing, the second earned through consistent action. Most importantly, I've learned that happiness isn't found in perfect relationships, but in wholeness within myself, in the capacity to face painful truths without being defined by them. If you're watching this and facing your own betrayal or difficult ending, know that the path through pain isn't straight or simple, but it does lead forward. Trust yourself enough to honor your own perceptions. Love yourself enough to require respect and honesty. Forgive yourself for whatever mistakes you believe you made. The life waiting on the other side of this hurt may not be the one you planned, but it can still be beautiful, meaningful, and entirely yours. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced betrayal and found your way to healing? What helped you reclaim your power and move forward? Hit like if my story resonated with you, subscribe to hear more journeys of transformation, and share this video with someone who might need to know they're not alone in their struggle. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the ending of one chapter is exactly what you need to write a better beginning.